It's 5 o'clock and we're off the clock. I'm B Scott. Today with us, we got Luke Naylor with the Arkansas Game and Fish. Next to him, you have Cuz from Cuz Outboards. On the far right over there, you have Frank West. You know him from the race series. You know him from building the motors at West Performance. And beside him, you have Brian Jesson. And everybody knows Brian.
Yeah.
Then you have my dad here with me. Today we're going to get into the duck season, what we're seeing in the timber, what's to come, hopefully. And I think we're just going to break down just everything that's going on in the wildlife in Arkansas right now. I would like to go ahead and just get right into this. Let's start with, where are you from? And how'd you get started?
Yeah, I grew up in Kansas, South Central Kansas, just a little town, about 1,500 people when I first remember the town population sign. Valley Center, Kansas, just north of Wichita, a few miles. So grew up there, went to Kansas State University from undergrad in wildlife and fisheries biology, and started out right after high school working for the Kansas Department of Wildlife and Parks, actually on McPherson Valley Wetlands, which was a brand new area at the time, and worked for their first manager, getting that wetland area up and running with his help and great mentorship from him, and then went to graduate school out at UC Davis in California, lived out there working on Central Valley Wetlands for about 6 years, which is a really cool place. It doesn't get quite as much press back here, but a phenomenal duck hunting culture out there in the Central Valley of California that goes back as far as it goes back here, actually, in the east.
So what actually brought you back to Arkansas?
Yeah, jobs. So was out there working on wetland management work pretty much the whole time I was out in California. A couple years, grad school, but I was working doing private wetland management programs primarily for the state out there. And just started looking. My wife's a professor, so we started looking for jobs. We kind of had between the Rockies and the Mississippi was where we thought we'd want to settle long term.
Right.
We knew California wasn't a long-term solution for us. Cool place to visit. I like going back to say hello to folks, but that wasn't a long-term option for us.
Arkansas is much nicer.
I would think.
Yeah, and it's just like I was the in charge of the job search for the family, so I just kept looking, and I'd find something that might suit me, and then immediately start looking for something that might suit her, and then kind of found a job opening here for the waterfowl biologist at Game and Fish in early '06, and then ended up just randomly finding an old job posting for a biology professor at UCA at the same time, and we got both of those jobs in '06. And
so what made you get into the wildlife area? I mean, what made you get in this field? I mean, was it something you always wanted to do growing up, or did you just like to hunt and you just want to, enjoy it the rest of your life?
Yeah, both. Yeah, so I was one of those weird kids that in third grade I knew what I wanted it to do when I grew up. I don't know exactly how that started. Lots of hunting and fishing all the time. My uncle, and now his youngest son, my cousin, runs a long multi-generational farm west of Wichita, out toward Pratt. So lots of time spent up there. There were 5 boys. Only about 4 years between the oldest and the youngest, I think, maybe 5 years. But we spent a ton of time out there on his farm growing up. That helped a lot, just wandering around out back of their house frequently every year growing up. And then, our weekend activities were going hunting. My dad was a school teacher, so that meant nothing was happening Monday through Friday. But every Saturday we could count on I was going hunting somewhere with Dad, and got to know people in the field. That one individual I worked for was a mentor who I got to know by hunting public land. Went out and spent time on wildlife areas and got to know this guy, and he was willing to take me under his wing.
Right.
As soon as I turned 18 and met all the requirements to get hired,
Yeah.
the rest was history. Somewhere in all that, I got focused. I said ducks is really going to be it for me.
Right.
I don't know exactly when that was, but maybe early teenage years.
Do you often get a chance to go duck hunt in Arkansas a lot? I mean, I know your busy season's probably during duck season, but
it's all the time.
it's all the time.
And
right?
a couple things. I hunted a lot when I was a waterfowl biologist. I've hunted less the past couple seasons as the wildlife division chief.
Right.
And I've hunted less because I've got 2 teenage kids.
Yeah, we looked at your track record. You're pretty successful. I mean, congratulations.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's been good. This change to administration was a little different. I'm enjoying it a lot, but something had to give for the last couple seasons. What's give is my own personal recreation. So
Right.
keeping up with family stuff and work stuff.
That's
comes
right.
first.
It's
So,
hard.
Yep.
So this podcast is important to us because obviously we're Havoc boats. Sure, you've seen a lot of them
Oh
down
yeah.
there.
Oh yeah.
Arkansas. We sell a lot of boats in Arkansas, and it's important for us to see the wildlife of Arkansas, whether it's ducks, fish, or deer, or whatever, to keep growing and advancing. There's a lot of people take their kids out duck hunting, and so it's really important for us, not only because it's the way we make our living, but we also represent our customers. And
It is. So once you got your feet planted in Arkansas, what was the first attack on, like, what were you going after to help Arkansas hunters?
Yeah, so my background was in active wetland management stuff. So I did my master's work on the impacts of moist soil management in California wetlands and what worked, what doesn't work, what produced well, what didn't produce well. So I was a little bit different. Most waterfowl biologists throughout the state are more, more population focused. Like they're frankly, they're better at it than I was about looking at, maybe diving in really, really deep on bandy data, for example, or, really, really deep on monitoring work, and which we've done plenty of that since I've been here and before I got here. But my focus was really on habitat work. So we've kind of upped our game as far as wetland management, and then, grew our active wetland management program and before, this is not because somebody else didn't want to do it or didn't try. It was just some things came together. We were able to push for a lot more active wetland management program that's been running for a while now. And then we, of course, got to work on looking at Green Tree Reservoir renovation work all the way back. First started talking about that way back in 2007, which is a year after I got here. So a lot of my work has been on habitat type stuff, not like the population monitoring stuff.
So focusing on the habitat part of it, what about the duck actual population? Have you seen over the course of the last, I don't know, five years?
Yeah, so it's so we do a couple things there, right? There's the breeding population survey that counts ducks every spring in the prairies and the breeding grounds, the prairie pottles of Canada and the U.S. and the boreal forest. And then we worked back in 2009, 10, 11 to modernize the way we survey ducks in Arkansas in the winter. So we do a really formal transect base, so you have strata throughout the state and you fly strips in an airplane counting ducks. It's a lot better than flying around and saying there's some ducks.
Right.
How many, right? So
Right.
so we modernized that. So those are the two, pieces of information that we've got. And yeah, duck populations are down.
It is very down, and we, the reason why it's important for us because we actually talk to our customers. I mean, we have over 10,000 customers all over the southeast United States. Kansas, Texas, Missouri. So we get a really good feedback on hey, are you having a good season? Are you having a good season? And this year just obviously was not a good season for Arkansas, and it's upsetting. For our residents, it's upsetting for our customers. We have a lot of outstaters come to Arkansas and just reported terrible numbers of ducks. I mean, you have people that drove from South Carolina and Georgia all over to experience a flooded timber experience, and the numbers are just down, and it's hard to explain that. And so we got Brian Jessen, and we got Cuz Outboards, and Frank here. These guys. We brought them to the podcast because obviously they hunt in the north part of Arkansas. They hunt in the south and Balmeda, of course. So I mean, Brian, and Frank. What are you? Both these guys from Pocahontas area?
Yes, sir. Northeast Arkansas.
And me and Brian are partners, of course, in this business, and B. Scott. We're a family-owned business, and I don't duck hunt a whole lot no more. We're busy at the boat plant, and I do a lot of deer hunting, and of course, I have to go out of state to kill quality deer. This is another subject, but the problem, Brian, what's the problem you're seeing, and Frank, what are you seeing one at a time? But what are y'all seeing? I mean, you told me several times that, hey, Tim, you ready to come duck hunting? I'm like, he's like, Tim, there's just no ducks up here. We're not getting water fast enough.
And that's some of that can't be helped. A dry year is a dry year. A warm year is a warm year, and then patterns of weather. They definitely change. water's very important for waterfowl. You'd hit earlier about the moist soil units, and that was one of the questions that had come in. So I'll just touch on the base of it.
Yep.
But we've had a lot of people ask, and one of the questions that come in was moist soil units. Over the years, I know they're set up for somewhat of a rest area, maybe a feeding area. There's been different programs to try to provide an area for the ducks. But with that being said, one of the questions is why are they not seeing waterfowl using these moist soil units? Why are we not seeing ducks on them? That was kind of one of the questions that had came in.
And I think that's also something that you talked about earlier too.
This question come from a biometa standpoint, like talking about Hollowell,
Right.
Talking about the rest areas and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean,
So you're asking, well, why aren't these rest areas being used? Why is there no water on the rest areas? Is that what you're asking them?
Yeah. One of our rest areas didn't have a lot of water this year, and then just over the years, it just seems like it's getting worse and worse and worse. You're not seeing as many ducks on Hollowell and Rape Plantation as you used to, and I think a lot of people are just kind of wondering what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, so duck populations continually this year were half what they were in 2016. Mm-hmm. So I think everyone needs to frame and it's for some reason it kind of came as a surprise to folks. Like we hit this year and it's the driest year on record. On record, it's a bold statement. A long, long time, right? Driest.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
October, November, always the driest. September, always the driest month.
I mean, did you guys know it's going to be a dry year going into it? I mean, did you guys get an idea?
Did you?
No, we didn't know, but I mean, you can see the weather. I mean, do we have any kind of, any ways to get water on these places, knowing that so many thousands of people are going to duck hunt?
Yeah, we did, and our rest areas follow every year we kind of lay out a plan for flooding them. We have less water on demand capacity across all of our managed acreage than probably what people think we have.
Right.
Rest areas, we've been working a lot over the past 10 to 15 years to increase that water on demand capacity, but if that water comes from a ditch that has to fill up with runoff, ask a farmer out there on the landscape what water they had to flood up a rice field this November.
Yeah.
Right.
They didn't have it unless they used groundwater, and we're not going to contribute to groundwater reduction across the Delta or anywhere else. So we're not going to use groundwater largely. Nobody had water to flood generally in November, but we followed a plan. I mean, Hollowell and Rape were flooded according to our schedule this year. I don't have those exact dates in front of me right now, but yeah, they were flooded right on schedule. Phenomenal habitat down at Hollowell this year, and Rape. We got a couple people commented this year and sent some pictures in and said, yeah, there's no ducks, there's no water. And it's like, well, there's only one. Rape's got a gate and then a long road that goes all the way back of it. The public, after November 1st, there's no access to that area, so there's no way to take a picture of 90% of Rape Plantation in the winter, or even see ducks on Rape Plantation 90%. You just can't see it because it's behind a locked gate. So, and Hollowell is a similar situation. Most of the duck use on Hollowell is back in the north and west corner now, which is that place is almost a full section. So it's pretty much a mile from the parking lot and the observation tower and the camps right there. It's almost a mile back to where most of the ducks use these days. So duck use varies on those areas like it does vary on every area where a duck lands anywhere across their range. But we see very good duck use of those areas. Next year, we're going to start, there's a guy working on some research in Missouri right now who's he's got a formalized way to use drones to count ducks across some of these areas. So the next year, new waterfowl biologist, he's going to be working on a systematic way to conduct duck surveys across some kind of hotspot areas, we call them. So not the surveys we do now are intended and they provide a landscape scale estimate. We're going to be working toward hotspots.
What though? Are you doing these surveys for what purpose? Are you trying to count the ducks? Or are you trying to
which ones?
Any of them. Like.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so you guys are constantly focused on counting the ducks, making sure the duck population's up, or improving the areas to hold more ducks, or I mean, obviously there's an issue. I mean, right, guys? I mean, you guys are seeing
There's
decline
a
of
huge
ducks. I
issue.
mean, everywhere. I mean, help me out here.
One of my questions is too, also, as such as a rest area, a duck holding area, which I've known since I was 9, 10 years old, long enough to hunt. It just astounds me that there's no water. Period. Was neglected to the point that they had to jump through somebody's tail ends to get out there and put pumps in there to put water in it.
And where was this at,
That's
Frank?
very, very crucial to hold ducks. That's Lake Ashball. It's kind of sad. The fishermen couldn't even catch fish. It was bare, desolate. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, they're doing something like that
it
in
was
Conway,
pitiful.
too.
I don't know, don't understand. I just know what it was, where it was, and I know how empirical it is to the ducks on Dave Donaldson there and the rest area below it, or should I say north of it. No water there through to the second split. I understand you have no water, no rain. We have a dry year for sure.
Yeah,
My
I mean-
opinion is, in my opinion, there's other resolutions for everybody. And that's where I stand with it. They wanted to fix the overcrowding problem on the WMAs. Am I correct? A couple of 3 years ago, 4 years ago, they gave them 30 days of duck season. Okay. No water. November the 15th, they're going to start flooding. The first week of duck season, who they allow pile in there? Everybody. No water. Where do they go? To the WMAs. That's a safety issue. You got 50 people in one duck hole. That can be resolved.
You know, that's something else we've heard too. There was this lack of water, and where there was water,
yeah.
they were
Yeah.
piled up in there.
I've heard that a lot too.
I mean, on the opening day of season, I heard that one hole had over 100 guns in it, and they were arguing.
Yes, sir.
I mean, that's crazy.
I mean,
you
that's
know?
just things we would love to be able to even give input and put back towards you guys. The Arkansas Game and Fish to help. We're not here. We're not nobody's enemy. I've hunted this place since I was 10 years old, and I will tell you straight up, honestly, I have seen nothing Arkansas Game and Fish has done to make my hunting or anybody else's better or the fishermen better in 20 years.
Well, I just think that the sport's growing so fast. I mean,
That's
it's
another-
right.
that's
It's
another
growing
thing.
so fast.
Yeah,
and it might be.
it's
it
gone
might
through
be
a couple
It
phases.
might be a little bit of a growing pains, you know. And that's kind of what, you know, like Frank said, his biggest concerns is overcrowding and getting too many guns in a hole. I know, cuz you know he'll be down there and there'll be a lot of guns. You know, one reason why I don't duck hunt as much as I used to is because I don't
because
want to
of that
go out.
reason.
I don't want to go out there and get in a hole with 50 guns and talk about boats all day long, right? You know, so I like to go in there with a little smaller crowd, but you just can't when there's a limited amount of water. You know, everybody, because these guys are gonna go duck hunting, right?
Yeah.
They're gonna buy their tags, and really, we was talking earlier. You know, no matter how dry things are, the outstaters gonna still come in. They want to
gonna
witness.
hunt.
They want to witness the flooded timber adventure. You know, especially in Arkansas. You know, that's what we're known for. You know, so you know, no matter what, you know, no matter if there's water, no water, these guys are still going to come. But you know, why not give them a good experience and figure out what is really going on with the water situation of the ducks? Because you got anything to say about that?
Yeah, like I said, it was a dry year.
Yeah, it was a really dry
If
year.
it doesn't rain, and
Sure.
by Alameda, it has the rain.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
no pumps. You don't pump it up. It has the rain. So that was a big problem there this year. Nothing anybody can do about that, you know.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Now, I did notice we were held to a lower water level this year.
Third year of that.
Third year.
Yep, we announced that back in public meetings in
Yep. I
2021.
remember that.
Yeah.
What's the
Seems like
purpose
it
of
was a
that?
well, yeah.
lower
What
this
was the
year.
reason? What's the
purpose
reasoning
of that?
behind that?
We're holding them at lower water levels, and we've gone in at or above that water level and done forest management to regenerate trees.
To regenerate them?
You guys think the water's killing the trees?
Oh yeah,
It is in the spring,
Yeah. Yeah. Spring when they got leaves on the trees.
not
yeah.
in the winter.
Yeah.
and the fall.
You think so?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
Is
absolutely.
so
So
is the
is-
dormancy? That's been a question. I know there's some public meetings coming up.
Yeah.
Actually, Saturday, will there be one in Pocahontas, and
Pocahontas, yeah.
one in Jonesboro?
Correct.
Everybody
Yeah.
needs to go.
I figure you'll probably be there.
Oh,
huh?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Be talking.
Yep,
but
definitely.
So that was a question, and it'll come up more, but the dormancy of the trees.
Yeah.
I know that's been, when is it?
Yeah.
When does the water affect them? When doesn't it? And so one resolution that they were talking about is could season be pushed back?
It could. There's a kind of a wall there, right? If you look at our seasons, and if you assume a 60-day season, and if it goes to January 31st, I'm just throwing out a bunch of
Yes, sir.
assumptions,
Yeah.
right? I mean, so
And the feds, just so everybody knows, the feds are regulating that.
the frameworks of it, yeah, it's a cooperative thing between the feds and the flyway councils to determine what the frameworks
And then that
are.
brings up another point. Could that be adjusted?
The frameworks?
Yes,
They
sir.
were a few years ago. Yep, they've been adjusted multiple times. And it used to be the Sunday closest to January 24th, then it was the last Sunday in January, then it moved to January 31st. Not
Does
many
that need
years
to
ago.
be pushed back further? Should it go into February?
No. No, there's a point where you got to let a duck be a duck.
Yeah.
And they need to get fat and happy and go back north if we want more ducks. And so hunting in February would be none of this stuff you can talk about in extremes like it's going to be the end of the world. But a duck's got to be a duck at
Yeah.
some point, and they've got to be able to use the habitat that's here at some point. And February, if hunting were to extend into February at some kind of wide scale, other than special hunts like youth hunts, then I think you'd start to see some issues with ducks trying to get fat and happy.
So on a
and go
personal
north.
level, you think it'd be detrimental to the waterfowl to extend it?
On a biological level, yeah,
Like it
not my
is now.
personal opinion, but it's biology-wise.
Yeah.
It's the later you go. There's some studies way back in the late 1990s that showed if you break a pair bond among ducks, that hen's less successful when she goes on to nest. Things happening here have been shown. There's some more recent work that showed that it's kind of an early bird gets the worm
Yeah.
reality with waterfowl. So they're trying to push the limits. At least mallards and pintails. They're trying to push the limits. They're trying to be on the front of the snow line if there is one, and
Yeah.
they're trying to get up there first. Everything we know about breeding ducks says if you get there first, you're more successful. You crank out more baby ducks.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and they do that by not breaking a pair bond and having to waste time reestablishing a pair bond in late winter or on spring migration.
Yeah.
And so, if they're fat and happy, like what that means, if they got a pair bond, that hen is always in better body condition because the drake's being attentive. Like that drake is being alert while she can feed and not have to worry about predation, competition from other ducks, all that kind of stuff, right? So, massive study just completed up in Canada several years back clearly showed that the better ducks that arrive early are the ones that do better and produce more ducks, which all of us as duck hunters should want. So yeah, the framework's been changed multiple times in the last 15 years, I think. So it's already, it's bumped up to January 31st. So if you took 60 days, you're back to December 1st.
Yeah.
Right? That's the latest it could pop. Like, if you had 60 days of hunting, that would be
Is
the
that something
latest.
that might be looked at, pushing it maybe back to give you another week or two of dormancy?
Yeah, we've talked about
chances,
that.
you know?
We've talked about that. Duck season dates are always fascinating.
Wasn't it on the agenda for like this year at one time though to be? to
a
come
little bit later? It was like Saturday after Thanksgiving, I think.
Sure.
Yeah, so you'd have to think about multiple factors go into setting a duck season, and if you did 60 days as late as possible, there'd be no breaks in it.
Yes, sir.
There'd be no splits in it. It'd have to run straight through, or you wouldn't hunt 60 days. So the whole duck season setting is always a trade-off, and a lot of folks, there's a lot of factors that go into it. Like we can only break the season twice. It can only be 60 days. It has to stop January 31st. There's lots of factors that play into exactly how you set a duck season. And having done this for a long time.
Do some of those factors, is it pressure and money from clubs, losing the Thanksgiving holiday there for members and for paid guests
I
and
wouldn't-
for lodging?
Yeah, I
and-
wouldn't expect.
I mean, is that-
say it as
is it-
pressure? Is that there's essentially there's a group of folks. There's a lo-
There
there's
would
a-
be people very upset if y'all were to push and they lost Thanksgiving. Would you agree with? I mean,
Oh, I'm sure there would.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's a long tradition. There's value in certain parts of the state where it's appropriate for that habitat, having early water for ducks. That's important, right? And the further you push that back, you got to wonder about private lands,
Yeah.
flooding
Early
ag
water for
fields.
ducks.
and that's what's
on,
changed
on
with
the
us.
habitats,
Okay.
all the habitats that can support it, which would be rice fields, moist soil fields,
Yeah.
oxbows, bottom, Tupelo breaks, that kind of. That's
We-
where ducks historically would have come here early.
And
they
we
wouldn't have been in the forest.
We
before
saw a lot of
December.
changes with
No.
that from the October
You don't
15th.
even need to buy a duck stamp till or hunt till after December, right? The timber,
What's that?
right? Is that
I'm not sure what
He's
you're
saying
asking.
you wouldn't even need to go out into the timber and hunt in the timber until after December.
Basically, the ducks aren't there.
Yeah, they're just not there.
that what? Didn't you just say that?
No, I said historically, before any of us would have been here,
Right.
you think about when rainfall happened, when acorns dropped, like all this stuff lines up. That
Right.
mid-December is when mallards would have come to Arkansas in mass. That's when trees would have been dormant. That's when the water would have come, overbank flooding would have happened. They would have been in like prairie wetlands on a, like, say a hurricane comes in and floods a bunch of perched wetlands on the Grand Prairie in October. That's where the ducks would have hung out. Now those are rice fields. Those are the habitats that can be flooded early to support
Right.
ducks.
I got you.
Yeah, but it all lines into what these ducks. This is what they evolved to do over thousands of years before
Oh,
we started
yeah,
coming in
for
here.
sure.
They were here. They weren't in bottom and hardwood forests until December, January, February. That's when they adapted to use these habitats
Yeah.
as near as we.
And
could
there's
go.
been a lot of changes. These rice fields. I mean, this used
Yep.
to be.
Yeah.
You saw the pictures of the
That's
timber.
a massive change.
I mean, that's the timbers. A lot of it's gone, and there are some private, but Arkansas Game and Fish owns the people own the majority of the timber.
Yes.
So, I mean, percentage wise.
A lot of it, yeah. We got it. We can't underestimate the private landowners who kept those forested wetlands
And
intact as
and
well.
NWRs,
And refuges.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're exactly right. It's the ag landscape has like at scale,
Yeah.
has a much bigger impact because it's a more massive land base, and we all have seen those changes over the past 20 years. Kind of the same time where duck hunting has gone through another getting really popular phase.
Yep.
It's the same time that the ability of those ag lands to provide habitat for ducks has declined.
So, Bow View, if I may ask, you're familiar with Bow View?
Yep.
So, with the flooding of Bow View back, I think it was about 10 years ago, the artificial what you say artificially flooding of Bow View, that changed, right? Arkansas Game and Fish pretty well said, we can't flood it,
Can't pump it.
cannot artificially pump it or
Right.
flood it, right?
Is
Well,
that
no, I
due
mean,
to
it's
the
been
taking
flooded.
due to
Right.
taking of groundwater? You're not wanting.
Well,
to,
we had a lot of pumps across running places that would have to run for Shirey Bay. You open up Lake Charles, and it's not. It takes every bit of 12 weeks to have any appreciable water in that place, which is why the boards were being opened October 1st or earlier for
Yes,
years and years and
Yeah.
years and years. So
and
there's
early
no,
water should definitely help. There's been a big change because by the time it was huntable, November 20th ish each year, you would have water in there and ample ducks to hunt.
Yep, and
once
that's
once that changed from the October 15th to the November 15th, it's dry.
Yep, and that's
you
the
know,
same
till
time that was
close to
killing a whole bunch of
Christmas,
trees.
so, Yeah.
Yep, there's
Yeah.
absolutely
And
the dormancy
that's one thing
question-
that brings a lot of people back to this dormancy question and what you just said. And I have a passion for that too, as Frank and a lot of other hunters. You go back to this, the water's killing the trees. But to me, the quickest way that I'm seeing trees killed is by chainsaws.
Not really. When we cut a few hundred acres out of 300,000 plus acres every year, that's a drop in the hat.
But what is the reason of cutting those trees?
Regenerate more trees.
You talking
that
about
area?
you talking about opening up a skyline, or
Yeah.
I don't
Yep.
get it. I don't get it. So it's kind of like deer hunting then. Cut the trees. Grow some more weeds or whatever.
Yeah.
I get it. But cutting the trees. I mean, they didn't cut trees a long time ago. I mean, I don't understand. Are you guys selling the trees? I mean, who's okay?
Where we can. Most of what's on there is not high value merchantable timber.
Okay.
It's fairly low value stuff. It's hollow trees. It's trees that are probably on their way to die anyway. So it's a variety of stuff. We've got long-term plans that are part of achieving desired forest conditions throughout bottom and hardwood forests. It's some plans are just revising that whole document right now, and that's a group of like 6 or 7 states that forestry experts have put together to guide how forestry management is done. And we follow those guidelines. Actually, the work we've done here over the past 20 years are being taken into account in a major way in the new draft of that document because we've had so much success in regenerating red oaks, regenerating a diverse forest, instead of just a closed canopy, understory of water-tolerant, shade-tolerant trees that are not highly. Every tree's got its place, But these trees, we've essentially got forests that are closed canopy. Red oaks and some other trees are dying. The understory is ash, maple, stuff that's not valuable for the long term. So we've gotten very active in trying to promote a more diverse forest that's beneficial to a whole lot of different species.
I got you.
With the natural resource of this timber, Luke, what could you say to me if I was a private landowner and get some of these clubs that don't agree with the cutting the timber? What could you tell me? How could you convince them to cut their timber?
We are, and private landowners are taking notice, and private landowners are starting to cut timber. The biggest land ownership of timber right now is on Wetland Reserve Program lands. There's almost 300,000 acres of that stuff that started getting planted, almost 30 years ago now. So we're actually working on trying to incentivize markets for those folks to start cutting timber on those WRP tracts that were replanted by Natural Resources Conservation Service when folks sign up for those easements. So there's all of these efforts. We're trying to encourage our conservation incentive pilot program that's going on right now is trying to incentivize the same type of forest management we're doing on private lands. And there are private landowners starting to take note of this and starting to do it on their own properties.
So if the trees were just left and you didn't cut them, and eventually the lifetime of a tree is however many 100 year, 150, whatever it is on some of these oaks, eventually that tree will die and it'll fall over.
But you're talking about hundreds of years, though.
Where there's water stress, though, the trees underneath it are not the same trees that are dying. It's a different tree. It's a different tree community that's in there already. So you have to do something unless you want it to die out and just have a green ash and sweet gum and hickory forest.
Oh.
That's what's coming on next.
So you're saying they're not being replaced by the same trees?
Absolutely, and that's because of water.
So how much? All right, let me ask you: how many acres of trees do you think y'all are planning on cutting?
We cut, I have to dig up those numbers, under 1,000 acres last year.
So that's how much I've cut now. You know, how much?
Yeah.
How much are you
He's
planning
yearly.
on cutting?
Yearly.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
yearly?
it's not, I mean, these are not high-value sites that contractors are beating our door down to come do timber harvest.
And I think that brings up the question is some of these sites, you know, and I know there's different contractors, but I mean, you see some of these timber tracts and they look destroyed.
Yeah,
And that's the questions that have
I'm
come
hearing.
in.
I mean, I'm hearing from customers where they're beating their lower units up and they're wrecking their boats and stuff like that because it's just the tracks aren't cleaned up.
And I've seen that. I'm always curious about those comments because you operate a boat through a forest that has a lot of wind-throw trees that have just fallen over because they're water stress and die.
Yeah.
Never hear anybody
Well,
say
obviously
anything
the
about
guy that
getting
hits
that with
obviously the guy that hits the log doesn't want the trees cut.
Yeah.
So he has an agenda already. So that's kind of an unfair comment.
There's plenty of trees. There's plenty of
really
trees
is.
falling
I
over
mean,
anyway.
that guy that's complaining
Yeah.
about hitting his
I mean,
lower unit
what's
doesn't
the-
want the trees cut. So you're already. I mean,
100%. What's behind that?
that's right. I mean, obviously the guy doesn't want the trees cut, you know, or don't understand why the trees are being cut. And I think that's the biggest problem. It's like we just don't know why the trees are being cut. And not only that, it's just convincing the people that you guys are right. You know, that's the problem. Maybe there's not enough information. Maybe there's not enough facts.
yeah,
I
man,
mean,
that may not be.
me
I
and you
just-
talked about
yeah,
this. I mean,
yeah.
why are they cutting the trees?
No, that's
like,
true.
Like,
Yeah,
hey,
no,
we don't
we-
got no ducks.
And that may be it.
You know, we don't get no ducks. Season's too late or too early. It's natural for people to complain.
And it is. I mean, when
know,
you've stood
what we're here
beside,
for.
you've stood in a duck hole and you've hunted, say you've hunted 10, 20 years. I know numbers. I've hunted this hole since I was a kid. You hear all that all the time. Say you've stood in a duck hole and we go on a duck hunt and we have a great duck hunt. We stand by these trees. And then they come in and they log these trees and that's gone. Like my child will never see and stand by those trees again. They're gone. They're 100-year-old oak trees and they're gone. So I think it really resonates deep down inside these people. You know, this is a heritage, something they've done with their dads or granddads, and now it's gone.
Well, they enjoy
So-
the experience of duck hunting.
You know,
and,
this was some of these holes, you know, or be popular, this or that. But
and the trees are gone. They're not able to raise their children with the same experience as they experienced because, that 150-year-old tree is gone. And they won't see it again, right?
no, it
So-
won't grow back in any of our kids' lifetimes.
So it's
you
just
know,
hard. I mean, I wish Arkansas Game
It's-
and Fish would understand that, reading something off a piece of paper, reading stats, and reading a report doesn't mean that the public will take that in. And, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I wish they would do a better job of explaining it to people because, you know, they're the ones paying to go duck hunting. They're the ones doing all this stuff. And, you know, it's just like the local politics in Washington, right? You know, you just don't understand what's going on. I think the Arkansas people just don't understand what's going on. I think the Arkansas Game and Fish need to do a better job reaching out and talking to these people, just like the reason why we have you here. You know, we thought this was important for us because we sell boats to our customers. If our customers don't want to go duck hunting, we can't sell boats, right? And we pump in $3.5 million in the local economy, right? I mean, we put gas in these people's cars, we buy tires, we do everything. So duck hunting is not just about you or Arkansas Game and Fish, it's just about the whole economy and what it does for everybody. You know, there's families here that that needs a job, you know. So, you know, next time everybody's sitting in a table and they talk about cutting trees or cutting ducks, it's not necessarily what they're talking about. It's everybody in Arkansas that makes $1 off of duck hunting, and the families we feed, and Christmas gifts we buy, right? So it all revolves back into everything. And I think Arkansas Game and Fish, because I keep hearing all the time, and I'm not slamming nobody or throwing anybody under the bus, because we support Arkansas fishing and Arkansas Game and Fish, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, we've done over $150,000 of donations and also boats too.
Marketing,
You know,
just
I'm
boats,
sure you've done your
yeah,
homework.
yeah.
We put a lot of money into Arkansas Game and Fish.
And we appreciate you being here. We do, Luke. I mean, I know some of these questions are hard.
It's just
You know,
another day at the office.
yeah,
well, you know-
but it might be because you know that's your job, your profession, you get paid to do. But these people are passionate about this. You know, I mean, there's people that you know when you take their trees or you shut this or limit that. I mean, they take it personal.
I mean, just
You know,
have
you've
And I
seen
feel
that
like
stuff.
a lot of the people.
and we can't.
you know, just have a
can't.
have a walkthrough. Have a group of guys come
We
out
have.
there.
We've invited people.
know, So
the
we've had-
edu- the
we've had
edu-
tours. We've had invited
Yeah.
people out, and hardly
The
anybody
education
shows up.
side.
Well,
you know, is
I mean,
different.
but the problem is, I've never gave up in life in anything I've ever done, right? So if you guys say, hey, I've done this, and nobody just shows up, well, you guys need to try harder.
I didn't say we weren't
that's-
doing it
I mean,
again.
that's
I
what
said
we do.
people
I mean,
hadn't showed up.
but that's not an excuse for failure. So you know, we work hard to build the most elite boat on the water, and so you know, we've never gave up on anything we do in life. You know, and so. You know, I was excited to have you a part of this because you know, we just want to hear your you know, reasoning and how can we make our customers feel better. You know, we stand for our customers. We build boats for them, and you know, we're here for them, and we want to make your job easier. Okay, so we want to get you out here and say, hey guys, this is why we're cutting the trees. Hey, this is why we're doing this, and we can talk to our customers, you know, this way.
Just get everybody on the same page.
Get everybody
Well,
on the same page.
it's. I want to back up a second. So, giving up is absolutely not what we're doing.
Exactly. I was hoping you'd say that.
Not at all.
Right.
If the easiest thing we could possibly do as a state employee meet some people's notions about what a state employee is, the easiest thing we could do is do nothing.
Yep.
Never
That's
cut a
right.
tree, never renovate a wetland, never do a GTR project. That would be the easiest possible thing we could do as
That
a
would
state
definitely
employee.
be the laziest thing to do.
It'd be the
Absolutely.
easiest.
And the cheapest.
It'd be
Absolutely.
cheap. We could do. We could just collect a paycheck and then retire.
So,
right.
so the beavers. Let's go to the beavers.
Do we want to talk about dormancy? Can we get back to? Are we going to come back to the dormancy
Oh,
question?
no, go ahead.
I
I'll talk about whatever.
I mean, the trees. I mean, I hear the trees all the time.
That's probably the
I
number
hear
one
trees
thing I
all
hear.
the time.
Either water, trees.
Trees. I mean, where's the
Water
trees?
trees.
You know, are they making tons of money of cutting timber? You know, you hear all these rumors. you
Definitely
know.
not.
You know,
Well, you know that's what people. The thing is,
people think that. People
if
think
they
you
don't
only
know
get-
what you're doing,
Yeah.
even if they do know what you're doing, they don't know why you're doing it.
You know,
and that's
Oh,
what.
that's
we want to
fine.
talk about the
just
sales
don't
tax.
understand.
We want to talk about the sales tax, and we want to talk about the cutting the trees. I mean, people assume
good.
Arkansas Game and
We can
Fish
talk, too.
is just
We got
the
plenty.
biggest, wealthiest organization in Arkansas.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what people see.
Yeah.
People hear that. You know
And
what I
that's-
mean? And so
It might be RDOT.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I
But
don't
One
know
of the
either.
two.
No,
It's-
it-
it's
I mean,
one
I
of
mean
the
that's what we
Probably is.
hear. I mean, we hear
Not
all
us.
the time. I mean, we're talking to the customers that buy the boats to hunt every day of the season. We are attached to the most dominant duck hunters in Arkansas. These guys love this stuff,
They
right?
do. They
They
definitely-
tell
yeah.
us what what they're experiencing. We're just telling you the truth.
I mean, these are 60-day hunters here.
Yeah,
These
I mean-
guys at this table. I mean, they hunt every single day of the season.
You know,
You know.
Havoc's gotten where Havoc's gotten to date. the quality in the product is because we sell to the most extremist duck hunters. And when they come back to us and say, hey, we're having struggles with ducks, we're having this and whatever, we're just telling you the truth.
No,
You know,
yeah,
we're just telling you the truth.
And that's what we do too. So we've got information about what we do with forest management, why we do it, all on our website. We've done multiple press releases. We get push out stuff through social media. We continually like one thing I've learned for sure, like business, private sector, government, like everybody can do better at communication. That's just I know that's kind of like
Amen.
a
Oh, yeah.
dust.
It is.
I agree 100%.
Always do better,
Yep.
but we're continually trying to find more, better ways to get information out to people. 'Cause way people consume information changes all the time, and that's not.
We experience
we're-
that too.
Oh, I know you guys.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah, yeah.
sure.
I mean,
Like
we
when
do
you
too.
started, the way you communicate people is
Yeah.
probably way different than it is today.
I mean, it's tough.
And
It's tough. I mean, some
it-
people just take
A lot of people don't
their
have
opinion.
patience. A lot of people don't
Yeah,
have
that's-
patience now. Everybody's impulsive, so they might read something and only barely read the surface of it.
It's
you
it's
know?
a 144 character world, right? So you can't. It's tough to explain why you're doing something complicated with habitat management in 144 characters.
Is
right?
duck hunting gonna get better?
So,
That's what
Is it
that's
gonna
what we
get
need to
better?
know.
man,
This is what they want to know,
as
man.
a duck hunter, I hope
mean,
so. But I think
I mean, you're the man of the you're the man of the hour right now. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
So-
is it going to get better?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. And so I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of folks. So we're in a situation now where we talk like an old guy, get off my lawn, but it's duck populations have been high for a long time,
yeah.
and they're going down.
But why are they
And
going down? And
Breeding population
is
changes.
somebody making adjustments?
It's drought in the prairies.
Well, I mean, I can run out of paint one day, but I make adjustments to get my numbers.
You can't make it rain across millions and millions of acres of prairie pottle
Well,
region.
that might be. Well, you might have a valid
Kim,
point there.
chemtrails.
What's that? Oh, yeah, right. So,
Sound like Arkansas Game Fish can get out there and do rain dances, huh?
one thing you can encourage people to do, go check out what's going on in the prairie pottle region. If you got an airplane, go fly it up there.
Yeah.
And you'll keep going and going and going and going, and you won't reach the end of it. You think the Delta's big, think South Dakota's big, go kick around the prairies of Saskatchewan for a week. It's massive. It is massive. There are no wetland protection laws in place in Saskatchewan, in Prairie Canada at all. There's nothing to keep wetlands as wetlands up there. And habitat loss is real. Conservation Reserve Program, CRP lands in North and South Dakota have declined massively over 20 years. And it now looks like we're actually moving toward a long-term drought. And the really smart guys working on this back in the 1950s said it's good old H2O, man. That's what drives duck populations. And most duck hunters around today we have not had something below a 50-day season since 1995. Think about that. And think about your customer base, who you hear from. And this is like, those folks are the future of duck hunting. So I absolutely care about what they think and what their opinion, but we got to provide some context. This is us, and all of us need to provide context to folks that we've had high duck populations for a long time, and we have not had these low populations that led to 30-day seasons, the point system. I got addicted to duck hunting where if I shot one hen mallard, I was done.
I have too.
You did, I know.
Yeah,
But a lot of people.
Why isn't it changing then? Why aren't you
Will it go
reducing
back
duck
to?
season? Why aren't you dropping
when
the
the
limit?
when the populations drop to a point that is necessary.
So
we will.
is there a certain number set? Like when
Yeah.
when the feds see this, we'll do this.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
all
is that
within the adaptive harvest management protocol. There's a
it'll
whole
be
matrix in there. It's
shrink days.
Yep.
One hen.
How close are we
what-
getting?
I walked through this a little bit with the commission last month over lunch, and so I don't predict this kind of stuff because we're trying to predict rain, right? Like we talked about
Well,
in
we
the fall,
need to do
right?
something, rain dances or something. you know?
It's
Turtle.
It's
rain
it's
turtle.
close, but we would take the last 2 years we've had a 15% drop year over year in mallard populations.
15%.
15% 1 year, and then 50% the next year.
That's
50%,
that's
that's
a
big.
rapid drop.
It is half the population that was counted in 2016. Think about that for a minute. Half the total number of mallards across the mid-continent.
So why didn't we make an adjustments, knowing that you did that in 2016? Why didn't we make an adjustments?
Because
It's massive.
Because it's bad money, huh? Is it about money?
no,
Okay.
because what we know also about duck populations is that harvest isn't the biggest factor driving those populations.
Okay.
It's water on the prairies. That's it. That's a primary thing that drives them. It's habitat, it's breeding potential, thousands of miles.
So
from where we
reducing
sit.
the limits and making adjustments, it wouldn't have improved the following year in duck season, or
Not likely.
Going back to one hen.
Not likely.
Yeah.
But when the
Back
number
to one hen
I mean,
10
I
years
don't-
ago.
That's the thing.
I mean, why
see.
wouldn't it though?
We
I
don't
mean-
see any hens hardly anymore.
because it
No.
wouldn't have, well, production has been very, very poor for several years. And
We've got some cameras in the woods right now, watching these areas
Mm-hmm.
where ducks are hanging out, and
Yep.
it's 7-1 drakes to hen.
oh, that's typical this time of year because hens are already moving the front of the migration.
Really?
It's unpaired drakes that are hanging out down
I
here
gotcha.
hoping they can find a hen.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's common for drakes to lead in the fall and tail in the
Can you
in
also
the
tell us
spring.
why buck deer disappear? Our 3.5-year-olds.
I would like to know that.
I mean, why do our 4.5-year-old deer disappear?
If you figure that out, please tell me.
Well, I figure you knew that. I mean,
I don't know that one because
I mean-
So here in South Arkansas, you got all these pine plantations, right?
Yeah.
Just rows and rows and acres, tons of them, and you have all these pine thickets,
can you? Yeah.
and you will not find a deer over 3.5 years old.
I mean, look.
Anywhere.
I got a tattoo.
conundrum, man.
I'm talking about where are they at down here? I mean, you have to leave. You have to.
They go underground, right?
You have
I
to
don't-
leave
I
here
don't know
to go,
where it is,
to go
but
kill one.
I live
They
in
go
Dallas.
underground.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know where they go.
I know Dallas County's deer. They ain't very good.
No,
You
they're
got to
not.
go somewhere else.
What about the bass fishing?
The bass fishing is terrible too in Arkansas. It just is. I mean, it seems like you go
So-
anywhere else in the United States.
So
and
you
kill
go to
something.
Texas mostly when you go bass fishing,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And
They got a lunker program down there. It's pretty awesome.
do we have anything here in Arkansas
Did you say
that's
lunker?
anything for like anglers
Whatever it is.
related, like catching big
Was it
bass,
lunker,
trophy
right?
bass?
Be more
or-
specific.
Lunker.
So in
Lunker,
Texas,
whatever. I don't
the
catch
lunker
no
We're
program-
getting
any
started
of
right. We're working on starting that now.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Are you really serious?
Yeah, yeah.
Because
It's, Texas has rolling. That's
Texas-
outside. That's
Texas has a really good program.
I want to be clear. That's outside. You get me into things where
Well,
I'm talking out of turn.
It's
'cause
okay.
I don't run
mean,
the fisheries
we're-
side of things.
I mean,
but
we're not gonna hold you anything.
there.
you know.
Oh yeah, you will. I know how this works.
Oh, you
so
think
you,
so?
so you, yeah, the fisheries side of things. There's I hear
Yeah.
look, I just hear conversations about people talking.
At
about
least
that
it's being
kind of stuff.
talked about.
Somebody
That's-
caught like a 10-pound bass. Like that's narrowed it down, but like just a couple days ago in the
Yeah.
office, somebody was talking about somebody came in. We got a couple people in our office do a lot of bass fishing. Somebody talked. I don't know where it was, who it was, when it was.
Well, you see the
10-pound bass, maybe Lake Burr or something.
Yeah, you
I don't know. Now, somebody's going to shoot me for naming a lake, but and everybody will go
Yeah, you
there.
shouldn't done that.
You name a place, and everybody
yeah.
gets mad at you.
But you know, when you see the tournaments, you know they got low bag limit. I mean, 14 pounds, 12 pounds bag, fat fish. You know, then you go somewhere else and they're in the high 20s. You know, so obviously, if the professionals can't catch a big bag, we can't catch a big bag.
Well, and I'm not going to argue with that. I want to sort of make light of it only in the sense that everywhere I've ever gone as a professional in this field, if you go to one state, if you go around us, they'll say Arkansas's got it good. And if you're in Arkansas, they'll say Louisiana's got
I know
it good.
for a fact, my man, they don't say that about turkey hunting.
in Arkansas.
I say that
No,
for
they
a fact. Nobody says turkey hunting is good in Arkansas, guys.
That
I don't
is a,
care who you are.
Nobody out there.
No.
That
Or
is
the
that is
duck
an
hunting.
outlier.
Turkey
Yeah,
hunting
turkey hunt is not good.
Not good in Arkansas. I
Or
mean,
the duck hunting?
well, duck hunting is. I mean, it's going to get better, Frank.
I mean, do you honestly? I mean, I know you're talking about us going into more of a permanent drought, like a long-term drought.
In the,
so
in
do
the
you,
prairies, yeah.
which is going to cause just more decrease in ducks, right? Is what you're expecting.
Yep.
So you don't see it getting better anytime soon.
I'm not a predictor because I've been here in Arkansas 18 years and dealing with duck stuff for a long time. And every time you say, yeah, man, it's about to be a drought on the prairies, you're wrong. Because typically, like if you look back to 1955, since when these surveys started, it's the longest organized survey of wildlife in the world. And you go back and it's like a 20-year cycle. Drought, flood. And that's good because a drought rejuvenates the wetlands. And what happened in the late 1990s when duck hunting got cool and we went to 60-day seasons, RoboDuck came on the scene, everybody could kill a duck on a parking lot anywhere. You could probably put one out here on the highway and
yeah.
kill limited mallards
Yeah.
in 1999, right?
No doubt.
And it was the greatest production year we've had. The highest harvest year was around then, or 2000. Hunter numbers lagged a little bit
Yep.
because 99 was better, and then higher duck hunter numbers came in 2000, 2001. A little bit more. They jumped, but we came out of a long-term drought, and that started in 1995 and started an increase, and production on the prairies was insane. Like, there was this massive production of young ducks, and no matter how long you've been hunting or how good a duck hunter we all think we are, young ducks, young geese, they all make us look like experts because they're
Yes,
the
sir.
vulnerable ones that lead to better harvest, right? And that's what happened through the late 1990s. And a whole lot of folks probably came in and had their perception of reality was calibrated in those years. Like, this is duck hunting. When there's young ducks everywhere, there's water, like, it's crazy easy.
Substantially easier.
Yeah, and so a lot of this is all about, it's just human psychology, right? Which I'm no expert on, but a lot of people's expectations were benchmarked during those times.
Yeah, it's kind of like the low interest rates back then.
Yep.
Back then, and now the
Yeah.
hikes.
Yep.
You know.
Yep. So
but if you look back in the '80s,
It's not crazy
It was the
interest
same
rates.
interest
Yeah,
rates.
it was the same interest
I,
rate.
I
right.
get, I get
Yep,
that. It
yep.
makes perfect
That
sense.
does make sense.
People are definitely used to lower interest rates. Now they get like 7, 8%.
So they're almost
They think
spoiled
it's
to
the
it.
end of the
They're spoiled.
world.
And-
but
and I
if you
don't-
look back in the '80s, it was that.
And I don't want to sound like that. That's because some people sit up here like, these young kids, man, they don't know what they're doing. Man, that's like, if we had that kind of attitude at Arkansas Game and Fish, we'd have problems because that's
Yeah.
the future of everything we all do, right? It's your future
right. That's
customer
right.
and it's our future constituent, current and future constituent.
Yeah.
We can't write these people off at all, but we do have to have honest conversations about, hey, guess what? You probably started duck hunting
Yeah.
in the
When it was-
best times that we've seen in 50 years.
I mean, I get that because, when Brian's telling me, he calls me and says, "Oh, it was terrible today, terrible day." And I said, Brian, I had a bad deer season last year.
Yeah.
So I try to stay positive.
Well, and it makes sense
not
too.
easy.
I mean,
No, it's not easy. It's not easy. I just wish we had better deer in Arkansas. I just wish we had better deer.
Better deer,
I mean,
better-
a 120 is not very good. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you got high deer density down here, and everything we know about that, high deer density doesn't create big
What do
deer.
y'all? I
And
mean,
what's the plan on that?
What are y'all
Is
gonna
there a
do
way
about
for us to
shoot more
attack
of
that?
them?
yeah, but nobody wants to shoot those.
Well, I don't know what to tell you then, because we can't go out and shoot them.
I feel like you
I
could
have
change it. You should have to shoot so many does.
what were you
before
about to say,
can shoot
Cuz?
your buck.
I have the opposite problem. We don't have any does.
So you're
My deer,
Got
and
all
it's,
bucks.
it's 20 minutes from here.
see down
we-
here. You can drive
It's
home in
probably
the
the
evening.
only place I've ever hunted in South Arkansas where there's no does.
They're
Used
all
to
over here on their place.
Yeah,
You
used
can
to,
drive-
you see 20 a day.
You can drive 30 minutes in
And
the
I-
evening, right when the sun goes down, from here and go to like Hampton,
Yeah.
and you will see 30, 40 deer on the side of the road.
All
Right.
those.
Yeah, I think the Arkansas Game Fish needs
It's
to do
insane.
something about the coyotes and the bobcats too for turkeys. I mean, they need to do something. I mean, we got a really bad turkey deal going on in Arkansas.
Turkey's hurting for sure.
Oh, I know.
I mean,
Hey, I'm a I'm a
turkeys are
turkey
bad,
hunter. I
man.
know.
Turkeys
It's
are bad.
and we'll see what this. So the same stuff. I mean, weather conditions here are not really tied to the breeding grounds for ducks, but we've had after 10 years probably of a lot of April, May, June rains.
Yeah.
In the last 3, not real bad on those spring rains, which is good for a ground nesting bird like a turkey. So we're hopeful that that's moving in a better direction because of the lack a little bit drier springs, better production, and that's another thing, right? People came in. There's got to be somebody go back a lot smarter than me, go back and look at all this stuff about how all these different game populations kind of boomed in the late 1990s. And look at all the people who came on the hunting season and started participating in the late 1990s, right? And turkeys were booming because we know when you stock something new into a new area, they overshoot carrying capacity. They run past it. Like here's what should exist on this landscape, and as soon as you stock something in, they'll almost always run past it. They'll overshoot it.
Yeah.
Which stocked turkeys in the 80s and 90s clearly did. They shot past what the landscape can actually
I mean,
contain. And,
yeah.
and y'all know turkey hunting got crazy popular too, right?
Yeah,
Right during
it
the
did.
same time frame.
It did, but Cuz, he's a turkey killing fool over there. He makes us look really bad. But,
Checks them all, by the way.
why?
That's
They're
good.
all
Well,
checked.
not in Arkansas.
Yeah,
I mean, not too many to check. Right?
Yeah.
It's not many.
No, I mean he kills a bird in Arkansas.
more than
we're like-
2.
He kills a bird in
He-
Arkansas. He's a stud.
He's not on the enforcement side, just letting everyone know.
yeah.
They might
yeah.
they might be listening. I don't know.
We
But let's talk about turkeys because I mean, would it not help to move the turkey season up a little bit? Come on.
I
mean, the youth season's like
It
the
might
best.
help you kill one.
Well, that's
kill
what
one.
we're trying
It
to
might
do,
not be
people.
good for the
We are trying to
turkey.
kill turkeys. We buy our license. We try to kill turkeys. We try to kill deer.
I think
we
you're-
try to catch fish. And we want to kill ducks.
I think
mean,
you're
this is-
hijacking this.
No, this is what this
because
is
you're
all
trying
about.
to kill a turkey in Arkansas.
Well, listen,
it is tough.
I want to go out there and I want
very
to.
tough.
I want to
Trust me,
go.
I know.
I want to go out there and
It's
experience
tough.
a good time in everything we do. I love the outdoors.
Right.
And I want to kill a turkey. I want to kill a good deer. I want to kill ducks. I want to catch big fish. I mean, that's what this is all about.
And if you can't do that, it's Game and Fish's fault.
Absolutely.
Yeah, oh, yeah, yeah. We're
All right.
Absolutely.
Yep,
I
we'll,
mean, somebody has to take the fall for it.
Yeah. The whole,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
whole
Yeah.
country's suffering with turkeys right now.
I know it. I know.
You
it.
think so?
I'm just playing.
Oh.
I'm just playing. But
Oh, man,
you know,
I'm glad you said that, because it's funny. That's another thing when I mention every
Well,
state's better
is.
somewhere else.
yeah.
Like for a while, I sat here and as a Kansas native, right? And I had my cousin. He and I were the same age. One of them grew up on the farm. He's 5 months older than me. We went through the wildlife program at K-State together, right? And he's working in the wildlife field in Kansas. And the Kansas turkey biologist for a long time is a guy we used to drink beer and eat chicken wings with in Manhattan. And so we had a lot of conversations about this. And it's funny, you sit here and it's like, man, it's just Arkansas's turkeys. They're crashing, they're crashing, they're crashing. And meanwhile, the Arkies, as they affectionately call them in other states, I mean, the mass migrations, right, north and west. I participated in that, and they're sitting there in Kansas and Nebraska and Missouri, thinking, yeah, same thing's happening here. It's going like this. It's crashing everywhere.
As a non-resident in Kansas this year, you have to apply for a lottery tag.
I know. I
Apply-
did. I
put
mean,
your
I did too.
application
I
in?
mean, I already did it.
Yeah, I already
I
did
mean,
as
I already
well.
did it. You know, we got tags in Nebraska. I mean,
I've
trust
been
me,
going to
we go.
You had to
Kansas
buy 'em, yeah.
for,
Yeah, we had to buy tags in Nebraska. You
Right.
know?
Yeah.
I did it too.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
see, I mean, we're hunting everywhere.
I'm a lifetime license holder in Kansas. Best gift my parents ever gave me was when I turned 16 or 18. They bought me a lifetime license in Kansas, like $200.
that tells you we
There's
need to-
still states you can buy non-resident
Listen,
lifetime.
Hey, I don't want to be that guy,
Yeah.
but if you're buying lifetime license somewhere else, you work for Arkansas, we got a problem. in
That's a
Arkansas.
long time
We
ago.
I know, but
That was
still,
long.
He's
You know, I'm not going to tell you how old
that's
I
like
am.
that's like telling people I fish out of a glass boat. You know what I'm saying?
But Luke's grandfathered in.
I know.
Yeah, that was a long, like that's been a long time since they bought me that license.
I understand. I understand.
Long time.
But-
yeah,
but
for
because
sure.
you don't
I've been
think-
hunting Kansas 17 years. I
Yeah.
think,
Yeah.
turkey hunting.
It's-
And
it's-
it's,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
One turkey now.
Oh, yeah.
Like Nebraska 5 years ago, they were sending emails, seemed like every other week, come shoot our 3 turkeys. It's the best
They were.
anywhere.
They were.
And now it's crickets, right?
So they're changing their,
Because I mean,
they're
a lot of
changing their
lot of-
limit, right?
Yeah,
They're
the-
changing the amount of birds you can shoot.
Yeah, they
right?
did. Yeah, they did that.
What happened was when
No, all the Arkansas people went to Kansas and
That's
killed
what
all the
happened.
birds.
Yeah.
I mean,
When
that's
it-
what happens. It's Arkansas's fault again.
when the season when
We
the-
had to do something. You can't kill the Arkansas.
Obviously, it's
You-
Arkansas's fault again
you said
because we don't
that.
got no turkeys. You know what I'm saying?
Probably
Exactly.
Game and Fish bought their licenses for them to send them up there, right?
Whatever it is, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, okay.
a lot of Arkansas went to Kansas to
know.
kill birds, and we did it. You did it. We all did it.
Yep.
And guess what happened, guys? There ain't no birds left
That's
in
right.
Kansas.
When I started going, you would not see a hunter.
You know, so
Oh, yeah,
Kansas ought to be
You got
blaming
in on the
Arkansas.
early side of it.
That's right, I did.
Then my cousin, a few years later, like probably in 2010, probably 2015 era, he was managing a Neosho wildlife area and Melbourne wildlife area in southeast Kansas, and he said, opening weekend up here, it's just all Arkansas plates, and
It is.
it's a funny conversation we have.
You out of
Similar-
staters.
I back
Right.
you. I always
You
back in.
oozers.
All those.
All these
Similar-
oozers.
The same
There's oozers.
conversations happen everywhere. I just want to let you know. They
I
all
know.
happen
Are
everywhere.
they all
Oh.
piled in one spot?
Hey,
I
we-
wonder?
Hey, we know
Yes.
that. We deer hunted Illinois this year, and
All over.
oh yeah, and we seen some guys on Facebook talking about us.
Yeah, on our truck. Took a picture of our license.
We're like,
plates.
wait a minute, that's our truck.
I mean, I'm like, look, guys, I know we're oozers. You guys come to Arkansas and kill our ducks, okay? Kill our
Well,
ducks.
I wouldn't say that, but anyway, they're hunting them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I believe that's a little bit everywhere. And I think
it is everywhere.
as far
Yeah.
as the Arkansas stuff goes, I think either people don't know the reason why.
I think that's what's bothering us. Is
Yeah.
we need to do a better job of letting
fair.
the people know why the timber is being cut. Why is this not flooded? Why is this not flooded? Because they just assume the worst.
I would. The thing everyone, I'd say this to anybody we talk to with any kind of connections to folks like y'all have. You know,
Yeah.
when we put out messages from our from our agency about why we're doing what we're doing, when we're doing it, all that kind of stuff, we would welcome the help from anyone to push that out to a broader audience.
Yeah, but we don't mind helping that too. We don't mind helping you do that. Our Game Fish.
And all these
we support
platforms-
them. We love to hunt and fish. Okay, don't get us wrong.
Hey, I know.
We
Right there
love
with
to
you.
hunt. We
Oh,
love
yeah.
to hunt and fish. We just would like to see a little bit more love and care, and explain the reason why things are happening, and try to grow bigger deer and catch more fish.
And it is hard because
Turkeys.
Donald,
Turkeys.
remember that
some
little
rabbits.
that lady that worked for Donald Trump in the White
I'm
House?
not worried about the
She
rabbits.
she made the best comment ever that
What's
goes
that?
along with this.
What lady?
She said, "I can explain it to y'all, but I can't make you comprehend it."
Well, that's so true. I mean, we deal with it every day.
pretty strong.
Like you can't buy a 550 weighing 350
Yes.
pounds. I get it.
Yes,
That guy thinks it's okay.
Yeah.
But it's
No,
not.
I-
The boat just won't run, right, Frank?
I know. It won't
It's,
run.
it's a
No.
it's a
I mean, look at Quentin last year. He ran sideways. He was on an 8-degree V, but it was actually on a flat bottom.
He was.
Yeah.
We heard that last year.
So just education.
constant
It's
it's a
just-
constant challenge,
and it is.
and
It's
that is
constant.
not an excuse at all. It's just a
Yep.
matter like we have, and we do. We keep trying to put information out there, and like we talked about earlier, the whole how people take in information, how people read past the first sentence or don't makes a big difference in how you communicate with folks.
Yep.
And not saying we've always gotten it right at all,
Yep.
but trying to just do that why, talk to people about why we're doing things. I know it's tough to see out there. I hunted on a permit gun hunt at Biomeda this year, and I on purpose went through a spot that we've done some active timber management on. Parts of it, is kind of like, wow, that's pretty cool. Parts of it were like, man, this looks like a lot, but I also understand why. I'm seeing things there that I walked through that area quite a bit over the years, and walk through it, and like, man, I never knew that there was this patch. For some reason, there was this patch of willow oaks that were 10 to 20 feet high, and now we've released those to become the next forest.
Yes.
And they wouldn't at some point they would have gotten beat out generally by other species if we hadn't have done what we did. And it's hard to see sometimes, but we've got to think in the long term. My message to a lot of folks these days is, hey, we're doing things to try to produce a forest that I will never hunt over. Like, this has nothing to do with benefiting me
It's long term.
at all. Like, I don't get,
Yeah.
I'm not going to get any personal benefit. Like I said earlier.
I mean, do you tell people that? Do you
Yeah.
tell people the reason why?
Yeah.
So look, if we don't do this, this is what's going to be in
Yes.
100 years.
yes.
So
Gotta
has,
show them pictures. Yeah, man, show 'em
Where,
pictures.
where I was talking to our guy on the way down today about
Yeah.
getting ready for our meeting on Saturday,
Yeah.
talking about the forest composition
Yeah.
at Black River, for example, and talking about what's going on there and how, it looks like if you look at the adult trees, right, the overstory, it may paint a picture like, it's they're all kind of in bad shape out here, which is true. But if you look at what the next forest is coming in, there's probably a pretty big difference there, that the next forest within GTRs is not an oak forest. You've got more of a chance to get the next forest outside GTRs may already be more of an oak forest, if that makes sense, because of just differences.
And
in
right there where you're
hydrology.
at, one of the questions on here was why, and I mean, I've kind of known the answer to, but one of the questions that come in is why the emphasis is on oaks regenerating.
Yeah, 'cause-
That's a question that's come in. So
Yeah, I mean, so we try-
why is that bring? I mean, food.
The
eating,
easiest
so
answer,
Anyway,
which is, it's the easiest, but some people kind of look at you cross-eyed, is that it's like we're trying to produce the forest that's should be on that site.
yes, sir.
Right? So there's
Yep.
really smart people that aren't me that go in and look at, like, what's the soils on this area, what's the hydrology, what's the landscape position. You look way back when the Mississippi River used to be, the white, the black, the cast, they're all the old Mississippi River channels. And so they could produce all these different cuts and soil types and all that. You look at all that stuff and you come up with something called potential natural vegetation. This is the community that should be there. And this is a guy, he got inducted in the Arkansas Outdoor Hall of Fame last year, Tom Fotai. He was at the leading edge of all of this stuff. And he's working with us to say, okay, what should be on this spot? We're not putting a red oak on a white oak or cypress site. That's ridiculous. We're not going to do that. But because of different hydrology and GTR management in some cases, where those forests should and shouldn't be has changed. Like there's some places where you're just not going to regenerate a red oak now where it should have been a red oak. All things like take it back to natural. Nothing's natural anymore. Let's just move past that. But
No, nothing.
nothing is. So we're trying to regenerate the forest that should be there.
Yep.
And most of those are a diverse forest with a high amount of red oaks in them. So those red oaks also provide resources that a white oak forest, an ash forest, an elm forest don't provide.
Yep.
Diversity. That's the
Yep.
key we're trying to manage.
And it's
for.
not just focused on, and I think that's another part of it. It's not just focused on waterfowl. You know, that
Not
area is for
entirely, no.
deer. That could
Yeah,
be
yeah.
for turkey. That could be, you know, because it brings back a
That's
point.
what it sounds like to me.
Another point is, you know, people are talking about, you know, ducks eating acorns.
Yep.
And so they're resonating this oaks with ducks eating acorns and
And they eat them, despite what I was having a conversation with. some
I
folks
might
out-
have kind of led you into that.
Oh yeah, you did. I've had this conversation a few
Well
times, if you
played.
might imagine. That do ducks eat acorns? Yeah, they do. There's some folks working on some stuff right now. I'm not going to steal their thunder. I'm going to let them publicize this stuff when it comes out. But keep in touch when it comes out. This is not my data, so I'm not. But they were looking at duck poop basically.
Yeah.
And you can use DNA now to identify what a duck is eating.
Wow.
That's good technology.
That is good technology there.
Oak acorns are in the duck poop.
Yep.
That's just the spoiler alert. They're eating them.
Yep.
And so
I've just
that'll come out. And so I know what
Is this
the next thing
mallard?
you'll say. I've never seen one in a duck's crop. Yes, mallards.
mallard duck
Mallards.
poop?
Yep.
Okay.
And
well,
I've never seen one out there.
And
not
I
so-
can blame this on other people, or I can say it came in, but you won't know the difference. So
No, I'm just going to assume
yeah.
it came from you.
yeah, so some of them have. Some I didn't write all these, I promise. But the question was, have you ever killed a duck that had an
Oh, I
acorn in
know.
it?
I've only answered that 1,273.2 times.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I've gotten a little bit more ornery over the past few years answering that. Like, so when you go out and hunt the woods, you're going out in the morning, right?
Yep.
You're shooting a duck when it's trying to come into the woods, right?
Yep.
it ain't supper time.
So, why would it have an acorn in its craw? It hasn't landed there to feed yet. Why would it have? And they process them really fast. I got a really good question from somebody last week. He said, "Well, yeah, but we should see them if they were in there, came in and landed after y'all stopped hunting and got out of there, and they came in and fed.
Yeah, but
we should
obviously-
see it.
Yeah, but obviously thousands of ducks been killed. Somebody should see something.
Oh,
It's hard to
Generally,
believe.
I mean, are we
we're
talking
full
about
of
Bigfoot
rice.
or what? Are we talking about Bigfoot?
There's lots of rice in
lot of
Arkansas.
rice where we're at.
we talking about
Are we
Bigfoot?
talking about Bigfoot? Because nobody's seen Bigfoot.
I mean,
yeah, I've seen plenty of pictures of acorns coming out of a duck's craw too. So it happens. These things,
Is it just a certain kind of acorn?
small
is
ones.
it rare? How rare is it?
What we would call a pin oak?
Pin oak.
Yeah. So pin oak, there's true pin oak. Northeast Arkansas has some true pin oak, which is a bigger, like a typical oak leaf, right? You're talking about a willow oak pin oak, right? With a
Willow
little-
oak.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
willow
fine. Yeah, that's what. That one's great. Cherry bark, it's a higher site, so a lot less common. And Nuttall is a big one. And Nuttall are kind of cool because they kind of meter out when they drop seed, right? So they'll drop seed some in November, some in December, some all the way up through February.
I
There's a
got you.
neat
I got
study that came out of some folks at Mississippi looked at that, and they looked at how these acorns is kind of cool because lo and behold, it kind of lines up when these places would have floated, when ducks would have been here, when they need resources before they're going back north. It all lines up really nicely that mallard ducks
It's the reason
pretty
why they're
well
there.
adapted to hit those forests and get acorns and invertebrates and hang out because they like loafing in those areas. Anything other than a human killing a duck in the winter,
Yep.
probably coming from the air. So there's absolutely values in a forest way beyond if they never okay, they never eat acorns. All right, fine. There's still super value in a healthy oak forest for everything else that goes on in there, producing bugs and that
Invertebrates,
separation.
yep.
Like when they're paired up, where most of them are in like mid-December, if they're paired up, it's kind of crazy how they can there'll be 1,000 ducks rafted on the water, but if you really start watching them, there's a pair here, there's a pair
Yep.
here.
That's right.
They're pushing each other off a little bit, and those trees, even though they can see each other, there's they feel like there's less competition in trees. That's why they hang out
There's
here in the winter.
refuge.
Yeah.
And they don't. No hawks come. Very few aerial predators. You don't see eagles swooping over forests, right? They're going out over the rice fields and open
Yep.
water to take out,
That's true.
try to pick
gotcha.
off one. So that's why forests have all sorts of values for all sorts of critters.
So I have a couple quick questions too here. Have you personally been to some of the areas that Game and Fish has had these contractors to cut this timber on and inspected it and seen it yourself?
Yeah,
Or,
I walked through it in Biomeda last year. Yep, a bunch.
okay, and if so, then is there someone that y'all have appointed or that you hire through Game and Fish that inspects it after the fact?
We have our habitat biologists oversee those contracts and then make sure they meet the terms of the contract. We've changed it over the years to where they've got to buck things down lower. Like when they leave a top out of a tree, they've got to knock it down lower than what they might. They wouldn't do it on their own just because they like us. It's in the contract for them to knock that stuff down lower.
So you'd say stumps yay high would not be acceptable, like he was talking about hitting a log.
Oh, stumps are
Or a
going to
stump.
stumps are going to be there, just like a root wad is going to be when a tree wind throws, and there's a root wad taller than me out there.
Is
And
there specs in this contracts for stumpage? I
There's
guess
specs
stump-
for all of it, and then it's like on a big picture scale about what's it doing to the habitat, what's it doing for rutting roads, that kind of stuff. We're under the umbrella of the Sustainable Forestry Initiative, which if you turned over a cardboard box somewhere in this building, you'd probably find a logo for SFI. That timber harvest was certified under a national organization, maybe international, I'm not sure, Sustainable Forestry Initiative that has certain requirements we have to meet, internal audits, external audits, we have to meet to maintain that certification. The benefit to us is it allows, there's a activity a year or two ago where like we were able to actually implement a forest management practice because we were certified on SFI.
Gotcha.
And that contractor then he had some other market availability open where it worked out better because we were SFI certified. So the benefit to us is simply an additional level of oversight. And hey, there's somebody else checking on what we're doing. That's the SFI program.
So what we're seeing then, we're like, oh my God, wow, this looks like total,
A bomb.
Like
I'm
the
not gonna
bombs
say
went
what I
off,
have to
like
say,
it got
but
carpet
anyway.
bombed,
yes.
It's not going to look
And
pretty.
that's acceptable.
like bow to
through-
view.
Timber harvest does not look pretty.
Well, can we make it
Ever.
pretty?
It can be. I was on
Is
a
it
private.
cost? Because that was the question.
I mean,
not to,
well,
not
can
to
we not
interrupt, but
make it
that's,
pretty?
That's a question that come in. The cleanup of it. I mean, it's just these are bottomland timber. That's why some of it never probably got timbered,
mean-
or it's harder to timber. It's wet. When
Well,
you get in something that's wet with heavy machinery, it makes ruts.
It can, yes, and that's SFI. Part of our specs make that kind of stuff has to be cleaned up. They can only go in at certain times, certain moisture.
Well, it's not
right?
being done, in my opinion. And how
Well,
can
I
you
mean-
grow a tree?
When
How can you replant a tree in there?
Well, they do a terrible job planting pine trees in South Arkansas. I do know that.
I'm pretty sure we don't own any of that land.
No, they do a bad job.
I mean,
But-
how can you plant a tree a year after, from what I've seen? And we have, I mean, there's videos, pictures floating around.
Plant a tree after a timber harvest?
Sure.
We typically don't. We do a timber harvest, so we don't have to have the expense of planting.
So you don't replant.
We watch for natural regeneration to happen,
Okay,
and if
I
it's
see.
good, we let it happen.
I got you.
Dagmar is one of the great, and Hurricane
Sure.
have two great
I
examples of that. Dagmar's got phenomenal red oak nuttall regeneration, and so does Hurricane. And Hurricane was what most people would call an extremely aggressive cut about 20 years ago, and now it's got 20-foot tall nuttall oaks that are the next forest.
So when would you replant? Say you're gonna go in there and plant your trees. Say I seen y'all plant some here a while back.
At Hurricane, we planted some. Yep.
Okay, so
Because it
when
was a
would you-
total loss.
Okay.
There were
so-
no mother trees, seed
Okay,
trees,
so-
whatever you want to say.
And that's the buckbrush didn't develop.
So at Hurricane, this was a massive, like a sudden timber mortality, and we don't want it to come back in buckbrush. That was a nice red oak forest not 20 years ago, and a sudden die off, like big old nuttalls just dying out, and so there's a lot of light hitting the ground, but probably not a lot of seed produced by those trees the last couple of years before they died, right?
Yep.
So we went in, we said, no, we got to do something here to get ahead of all the other stuff. So we planted a bunch of mostly nuttall. We collected nuttalls from Hurricane and Bockham Nursery up there at Scott, grew them out for us, and we planted some seedlings planted some acorns. So we're kind of testing which one is going to work best in one of those highly altered, wet sites like that. And we're hopefully one or more of those techniques will work, and whichever one works best, we'll use that. And if some of them don't
For
work,
future.
we'll try something different.
Yeah.
Well, that's nice to know.
I know we're
Yeah, it is nice to know.
jumping around. I know
That's
we're limited on time.
normal.
Gar Slough.
There was a question, Gar Slough.
Yeah, yeah.
We just
Big
hit-
deadening, massive deadening.
Just hit on that real
Yep,
quick.
yep, and we got an amphibious traco in there last year to start working on that to improve drainage. And so we'll be continuing to do that work to improve drainage there.
So you plan on planting some, maybe some trees in there?
Maybe, we gotta see,
Maybe.
we don't see a reason to invest the time and resources to plant trees unless we get the hydrology fixed first. So if we could.
Hydraulic.
So if it stays
water
wet,
moving.
they won't
Yeah,
grow.
yeah.
I got you.
If we can get Gar Slough mulched out so it's draining like it should, then yeah, we'll go back and reforest it.
Okay.
I got
So
you.
there's been a problem with Gar Slough draining for how long?
It's been for a minute.
Okay, and so what killed the trees on Gar Slough?
Combination of things: overbank flooding, beavers, lots of different things.
Beavers, okay. So would you say that maybe the beavers do cause a big problem in the spring with this flooding?
They can, absolutely. That's
Okay.
when they're
So-
working.
Yeah.
That's when they're
Right,
busy.
Right.
Yeah.
So would you say the neglect on not getting the beavers out would cause this flooding too?
I mean, it could. I mean, neglect's a
Sure.
strong
I-
word,
I
but that's
understand
why
that.
we're.
I understand, but
that's
that's
why
what I'm
we've
saying.
got-
Like if you had somebody trapping beavers and
So
they
you're
didn't do their
saying,
job.
Frank, I
Which we
mean,
do,
So,
yeah.
you're saying if they would go out and catch more beavers, we wouldn't have much water on the trees, and
Exactly.
we can
Yes,
have a
sir.
better duck
That's-
season.
Which is
That's what I'm
which is
getting
why we've got 4 contractors working across the state, and that's their
Yeah.
only job for us.
Yeah, y'all need to go kill the
I know-
bobcats and everything else too.
I
to
know
kill
we're
the
jumping
turkeys.
around.
They're busy.
Okay.
We're
Keep 'em-
jumping,
keep
but
'em on
while
killing
we're on the
beavers.
beavers, can I ask you about Beavergate?
Yeah, that's a beautiful subject. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Will you hit on that just a touch?
Yeah, we pay for things way more than trapping beavers.
Okay.
Those folks have a job to. It's approaching 300,000 acres that they're contracted to do, and so which includes like their job is to keep water moving through these areas, and so that may include blowing out a beaver dam, killing a lodge so beaver doesn't hopefully come back. I mean, those suckers don't give
They're
up
tough.
easily,
Their
right?
beavers are tough. Yeah.
And if trapping a beaver is what they need to do to move water, then they're going to do it, right? But it's not. We don't pay them to go trap beavers. They do all this other stuff, which a lot of that involves. I kind of equate it to, as all this stuff has kind of come up. I'm like, well, have you ever had I worked lawn crews in high school, and people, when somebody'd come by, we'd all meet at the same place every day. We'd hop in the company truck, load it up with all the gear. We'd go to a job site. We had a rotation. Mondays, these sites, Tuesday, Wednesday, right? It's a rotation. We do the same thing every week with the same crew, right? That's just how lawn crew works.
Work the same amount of hours no matter what.
We picked up at the same spot. We all clock in at the same time. We go work the same jobs. When we get to a job site, one guy's mowing, one guy's blowing, one guy's weed eating, right?
Yep.
That's just how it works.
Yeah.
And it's kind of similar with what these folks on waterway maintenance contracts do. They have a circuit. They're required to visit these places, and they work with our field staff to develop a circuit where they're going through and running these drains with amphibious vehicles, whatever it takes to get through it, and checking them for obstructions on a regular basis. So they'll have some sort of system where they go, yep, this day we're checking this route, this day this one, and they move on down the way. And that's a communication thing. We haven't communicated
Yep.
well what those folks do,
Yep.
what the full breadth of their responsibilities
I
are.
mean, I agree 100%.
So we
Absolutely.
didn't
Yeah.
communicate that well.
I agree 100%.
And so
I mean,
we're improving how we communicate
Yeah.
what those folks do.
I believe we're
and
learning a
there's
lot
him.
here.
Yeah.
And
I
there's
think so.
contracts. This
Oh,
is
yeah.
all contract.
And it's through a full RFP process.
So there
People
was a
gotta
new.
bid.
I just noticed there was a new bid put out here. What about a couple months ago? Well, it was back. I get my dates mixed up. I should have had it all with me, but it was October. There was a bid put
Yeah,
out.
yeah, what about it?
$1 million bid for 3 years on beaver
Yeah.
control. Contractor out of Lynn, Arkansas, received that bid. Blake Guerin
Yep.
for beavers.
Yep.
My question is, so that's $1 million, a 3-year deal, right at it, nine and some change. My question is on that is with the beavers. So we got $1 million we're going to pay out for 3 years of beaver
up to,
trapping.
yeah.
Up to, correct.
Right.
Yep. equipment, depending on what they're going to be doing, I guess, ATVs,
Right.
mini skid steers, thumbs, whatever. What would keep with the resources that they have? You come back to the 8 cent sales tax, and Game and Fish looks like you're running on about 122 million budget.
This year, which is the highest
Yeah.
we've had in a long time, it's going to
About
go in the other direction. here
Almost
soon.
half of that was salary.
Yeah, give or take.
Give or take, the rest of it expenditures, whatever. So when you're looking at all those numbers, I just that was real quick. You'll know
Yeah,
the
that's fine.
exact, but with that being said, with the available resources, what keeps some of this from being done in house? Why outsource that beaver trapping or some of the cleaning or why not hire guys in regions and beaver crews?
We are capped out on the approved number of positions we have in the agency.
There you go. You answered people a lot of questions right there.
We're capped out.
Nobody knew that.
So and back to
So-
the gentleman's question, like way back when, it was left up to field staff to do beaver control at Garslew, for example, right?
And area managers, are they able to do that?
Oh, yeah, yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
They,
They
can
don't-
carry a 22 and
Yeah,
they see
yeah,
a
oh,
beaver,
yeah.
they can shoot it in the head.
Yeah, they don't
I mean,
not do it.
Yeah.
They don't like walk by and there's
But
So
that's
is
not
that-
their primary role.
Is that
There-
kind of like the problem with what happened with Lake Ashball? I mean, with kind of who's in charge of keeping, my question is what happened with the problem with keeping it? I know there's a problem with it draining. There's
it's sand.
evidently,
Yeah, it's sand.
exactly.
Yeah.
So what was the problem with it with someone not dropping the ball with keeping water in it?
I think the fairest way to say that is just communication.
Okay.
Yep.
I think that's it. I think it's the most
Gotcha.
honest answer to give you.
Yes, sir.
It's a
I
big-
think
a lot
it's-
of this
it's
is
just
communication.
and that was internal.
Yeah.
Big organization and
mostly
stuff falls
internal.
through the cracks at
Well,
times. I mean,
somebody needs to
nothing's perfect, right?
Somebody needs to get paid to communicate.
Well, there's
They do.
that. I would say that was in. We've had lots of conversations over the years about
Yes.
ash ball, right? That thing's been not a great fishery for a long time, but it's important to people in the area as a fishery, even though it's not
Used to have great tournaments there.
Yeah,
Just catch
early on-
one or great fish.
had the new lake effect, right? You flood up a new lake, create a new lake, you catch big bass, big brim, everything's great for a while, right? And then it's like, wait a minute, this thing is built on sand, right? It's an outscar of the
So
river.
it leaks.
It leaks bad, and we just did some core sampling up there. We're trying to figure out what the long term is for Lake Ashball. It's going to be a spot for ducks to sit and be happy for a long time, and we need to figure out what to do for fishing as well, because it may, for a lot of us who you like to catch big bass, you're not going to go to Lake Ashball to catch big bass.
Yeah.
But a lot of people that's in the area, that place is highly valuable. That is their spot to go fish.
Absolutely.
Right, and so you and I may look at it and kind of like, I don't know, man. Why would I fish
Not
there?
valuable enough.
But it's important. It's important to a lot of people in the area.
Same with Hollowell.
And it's
Yeah.
important to
Most
ducks.
definitely.
Used to be a big bass lake,
Right.
Well, yeah,
and the locals fished it a lot.
way back when it was
And,
crappie and bass
it's now
and everything.
it's now a moist soil unit.
Yep.
And so there was a plan at when all this got stirred up with the timber and Dave Donaldson
Yep.
issue. Sorry,
Yep.
take you back up
That's all
north.
right. Yeah.
People were kind of saying that Game and Fish sold fear with that because the opening line was decommission Little Dam. Little River Dam.
It
So
was.
it just,
Which there was a
it's just a pause there. I saw it too, and I was like,
I did too.
what?
and then,
You're talking about the decommission of Dave Donaldson?
Then
Take
just
the
a
levees, take
few-
the dam,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
even Lake Ashball becoming a moist soil unit.
well,
That was on the agenda.
So
What
my
was?
question is,
What was?
Decommission. I mean, that's what we read.
and about 4 slides later, there was a big fat red line
yep,
through it.
yep. But my question is,
That's the balance of transparency
why?
and
Why is
Why?
that fear sold
It
and then
wasn't.
backed off?
It
Why-
was-
boom.
It was.
Oh, we're
to-
gonna take it back.
No, it was. I think it's not about fear. It was
On the
we're-
table?
We're trying to, yeah, but it was about transparency. Like I think it's people.
So someone come
people
up and
want
thought that
transparency.
that's the best idea. I mean, so there's an employee with Game and Fish that thought, hey, this is the best thing I got. I'm gonna write that down and we're gonna put it up there.
Oh yeah, I clearly said that in both presentations I gave, that we started with, hey, if we're going to go this direction, and we just want to do the best thing we can to make sure this is a sustainable forest 100 years from now, The first solution is to take everything out. You won't have any GTRs.
And just let it naturally flood and
Yeah, if all we cared about, if that was the only objective, and it's maybe a little bit cheaper, maybe if that mattered, but like if that was it, that's what we would do, right? So it's this idea of transparency versus finality. Our director talks about this a lot internally. Like, hey, we're talking about a lot of plans for things, and we're trying to be transparent with people about what is going in, what is in the thought process, what contributes to decision making. And so there's risk in transparency. There's risk in telling people that, hey,
Absolutely.
all this stuff, I mean, theoretically could be on the table, but we're not going to do that because we also care about these other objectives. So it was a balance of transparency versus having a final plan in place. And so
going into that, did y'all think it would stir people up like it did?
I was, yeah, but I would think people would see 4 slides later. There was a choice made to take one slide that was incorrect. That was the beginning of a progression of a discussion. There was an active choice by someone to say, that's what I'm going to inflame people with. When just a few minutes later, here's what we're currently thinking, right?
So
And
maybe
I'm not saying I'm not.
maybe
this
that
is-
was just a bad choice.
It wasn't
maybe,
woe
to
is
just-
me. I'm
to
not like some. It's not a
present
pity
it.
party.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's like you kind of with that to be fully transparent. We wanted to tell everybody everything that's gone into our thought process.
Well, that was a bad decision.
Well, maybe so. It's also a bad decision to pick the wrong slide that was no longer on the table, and so
That was a bad decision.
so
But y'all
it's,
don't do that again.
you control what you kind of try to control what you can control, and it's transparency. Yeah, in hindsight, I don't know if we'd do it differently, but
Yeah, you would.
the transparency part of it is what we were trying to accomplish there,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it bit us a little
And
bit.
then
I get it,
I know
too.
I know we're jumping. I'm just trying to get through as much as we can. I know
Sure, we're pushing
time.
it
I know
slow.
we're pushing, but of course, that stirred people up, and then now this 8-cent sales tax, and do you want to hit on that? Like, if they get it on a ballot to vote it away, like affecting Game and Fish's funding, and half the money comes from that, yada yada. I mean,
It'd be a huge negative outcome for all the
Because
constituents.
it sounds
of
like,
Arkansas.
sounds like it's salaries, and you guys are tapped out anyway with the,
Sure.
well,
it sounds like to me.
no, he's tapped out on employee numbers.
The number,
Yeah,
yes.
okay.
They can hire
Thank you.
contract.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
we can
I
hire
got you.
contractors.
How many people work for Game and Fish? I can't find that information.
550 now,
Okay.
maybe.
Fi-
Maybe like it's in the middle 500. Don't be lying to
Okay.
you. It's
And then who sets that? Is that something that could
text
maybe be
David back.
adjusted, so that these contractors aren't taking advantage of the taxpayer dollars, and we could get more good employees in these positions and
Well,
make stuff cheaper?
a couple answers. I
Who
don't
wants
think
to go out there and cut trees?
couple answers.
Sorry,
I would say that
this is just stuff I hear, and I'm just
those contractors are not taking advantage of us. I'll
Okay.
say that.
Okay.
And then the legislature sets the total number of employees we can have.
Okay,
We're a constitutionally independent agency, but sort of. Like, it's funny, through all this conversation, people say, audit them, audit game. We get audited all the time.
Yeah.
We're audited all the time by the legislature
Well, it's just
and the
because-
federal government.
Because
well, I think it's the
taxpayers'
appointed.
money.
It's
I
the
mean,
appointed
taxpayers' money.
positions by the governor. I think is
Yeah,
is
the
people's
governor.
problem.
that's the
that's a
commission, but
whole
but
nother
it's-
deal. That
it's-
we could talk about that for.
We're audited all the time by both state folks and federal folks because a large portion of our money comes from federal aid, which is so the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service audits us on a regular basis. Legislative audit folks, they come and set up shop in our building all the time. I think our CFO would get mad at me, but I think it's annually, maybe more. We're audited all the time, just like any other state government agency. But our actual budget caps and our position caps are set by the legislature.
Gotcha.
Even though kind of within that, we can say, yeah, we can spend on this or that. There's these broad categories. We could go like way off into a wonky discussion you don't want to have. I'm guessing you don't want to have about all these different categories of funding and stuff. But at a big scale, the legislature puts broad sideboards on what we can do with that. So they have total control on the total number of people we can have on the payroll and the total
And
budget
your
we have.
number 550. That's enforcement.
Yeah, everybody.
fisheries.
Everybody.
Total.
That's the whole
Everybody.
state.
total.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Total number.
Yeah. But I can get back. I can get that final
Yeah,
number.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're saying if you presented in front of whoever it is you can do this to, say, we're paying these contractors for this purpose and this purpose, we could actually use more employees for the simple fact that this is the amount we're paying. We can pay employees the amount that we pay our guys that take care of our WMAs, this amount. It's going to get us down there decently a lot less. Would that be something that Arkansas Game and Fish could do?
We've you go back to the last legislative session and look at our proposal.
Sure.
So it's
We will.
our director
definitely.
is very active in trying to get more positions.
So
for our
he would
agency,
rather
particularly for habitat work.
So they'd rather spend more money to a contractor than they would to hire someone else.
Well, I think what he's saying is it's not. They can't hire anymore.
Yeah,
I
we,
see.
They can't hire anymore. They got rules,
The
man.
legislature.
Wow, okay.
They
550
would if they could.
rules.
That's what I'm
I
hearing.
got you.
Somebody made a rule.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
yeah. So it's a,
got
and this is not. I want to be very clear. This is not finger pointing type stuff. This is just, it's just government checks and balances,
Yeah.
which I support. But it's our director is very active in figuring out the long term vision for the agency and okay, what kind of staffing do we need? You don't want to be because you go too far too, right? You get all of a sudden
Yeah, you get
might
too
have
many-
too many people.
You get too
right?
many people involved, nothing gets done.
And
of
we-
course, nobody really wants to do anything no more. They
There's
just
a
want
balance
paycheck,
there.
You know,
There's a balance. So we're trying to strike that
We
balance in the
struggle.
requests we make
yeah, we
to
struggle
the
with it too.
legislatures.
Yeah.
That's coming up. We do it biennial, so the state agencies have to go present a biennial budget request, which has people and what we're going to spend on these big categories. That's coming up 2020. I'm not going to be lying to you. It's in a year or so,
Yeah.
maybe.
No.
So I wait. I fill in information when the folks who are really good at this ask me for the
We're not
information
holding
about
you to
it.
any of
Yeah.
this, Luke.
Yeah, but that's kind
Yeah.
of that's like 3 minutes into the process of how all that works and the checks and balances work. So, yeah, we got plenty of audits going on, so nobody should worry about us not being audited because that happens on a regular basis.
I guarantee
Well, like
you.
I said, everybody points fingers.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's hey,
I mean, if we want real changes done, maybe you should run for commissioner.
Hey, I'm all for it. You know, I like to get stuff done.
That'd be
Yeah.
that'd be real good.
You're
Y'all
available.
want- Y'all want me to do that?
We'll have to talk to
Sure.
Sarah.
Yeah.
What's it cost now?
I have no idea.
We
I
do
don't know what
want
it
Sarah.
It's, a,
we
it's,
do,
a,
we
it's a
do want,
voluntary appointment. That's all I
Yeah.
know.
we do
Yeah.
want Sarah Huckabee to come up. And,
Yeah, we should.
You know, on
we
our
should.
show.
We
Come on.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
come on,
nice.
Sarah. Hey, we're a big fan of you
Yep.
and
We
what
love
she
her.
does.
She's good.
Absolutely.
She's good.
She is great.
We definitely love her.
Well, I would say all in all, this answered a bunch of questions, and I think people watching is going to learn a lot. And I think we narrowed it down to a lot of it's communication
Yeah.
for the most part. When y'all
Sure.
when y'all think,
Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
I think so.
Education.
Keep it coming.
Communication's a big deal.
And I
Communication.
also think that a lot of it is what's best for the forest is not what's best for your duck hunting.
Well, and that's a
That's
balance
true.
we got to walk, right?
You know, and a lot of people don't realize that.
Yep.
They just say, the duck hunting, y'all are messing up our duck hunting, but what's best for the forest is not what's best for your duck hunting.
The
Long term.
only pushback would be the long term, right? Long term duck hunting or short term duck hunting.
Right.
And we're trying to focus on long term duck
Well, that's
hunting.
really. I mean, that's
which is
good.
painful. Which is painful.
It
Yeah.
is painful.
It can be painful. Let me put it that way. Yeah, that
Oh,
was
sure.
That was. I totally agree with what Cuz said. It's a
Well,
long term versus
just
short.
when you get into that, the same turkey hunter and the duck hunter, water's bad for turkey. I mean, it doesn't all work.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
we
it
don't
does-
go to
it
Balmain
doesn't-
to kill turkeys.
doesn't
so.
work together, you know.
Yeah.
you don't go to South Arkansas either.
No, that's not our either. We gotta do something about the
well,
pine trees.
or big deer.
Yeah, I try. South Arkansas, you ain't
I've
gonna find
learned.
none of the above.
I've learned for.
I got a tattoo on my arm. You can see it in the earlier podcast, whatever. I got a buck tattoo on my arm, right? So I go there and I get this tattoo done. I get to the house, I'm starting looking at it. I said, damn, that's a 120. I mean, a two put a 120 on my arm.
Bigger deer. You need a
Right?
big- you need a
Hey,
big-
Hey,
need
you
a
got
bigger
Dallas
deer.
I was
County
like,
deer.
just because I'm from Dallas County don't mean I get to wear a 120. So I had to go back and turn at least to a 140.
Added a couple extra tines.
Yeah. you
Nothing
know.
to it, right?
No,
Is what
nothing
it
to
is,
He-
man.
I made him make it bigger.
Okay.
Yeah, I did.
Good
Well-
to set goals, right?
Yes, that goes. But I do want bigger deer and I do want bigger fish. You know, I mean, come on. I mean,
Right
let's-
there with you.
I like to see something from you guys to put a plan together.
And the meeting's this weekend in
And-
Pocahontas,
yeah.
right?
And
This
Jonesboro.
Saturday. Saturday.
This Saturday?
Two of them.
Two of them,
Pocahontas
same
and
day, yep.
Jonesboro.
Absolutely
Both of the
everybody needs to go to that.
schools,
And this
both
is-
of the
Everybody
schools.
needs to go to that. Yeah, everybody needs
This
to go
is
up
just for
there.
Dave Donaldson.
Yes.
There'll
Yeah,
also
we'll-
be meetings for Biomeda sometime.
Yeah, we'll have talk. We'll have it'll kind of be a brief presentation thing, but then there'll be some Q&A, and there'll be some folks set up around the side. So if you got questions, and we'll have information up there about some other project as well. So if people have questions and they want to go talk to somebody off to the side and ask about this project or that project, they'll be able to. It's not like we're going to say, well, you don't have a question about Black River, you got to,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
get out. That's not going to happen. We'll answer whatever comes
I
up.
got you. So everybody needs to go to that.
Absolutely.
Be a good time. You know.
And well, we're about out of time, so I think we'll wrap this thing up. Thanks everybody for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Learned a lot.
Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Very
appreciate
great.
it, Luke.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
In closing, do you so these people that are just mad at Game and Fish or mad about the timber? Is there anything you could tell them to just make them feel better? You know,
gonna have a-
everybody wants a participation
We're
trophy.
just
and to
gonna
feel
have a better season.
It's-
That's all.
Can you got anything that just make somebody feel warm out there that's listening? You know what I mean?
I'm not.
You got
Yeah,
anything?
man. Trained biologists aren't really good at that. If you hadn't noticed, that's not our expertise.
I just got to say, like, hey, can I practice as a commissioner? Can I
Yeah.
practice? Hey, guys, it's going to get better. We're making changes for the future.
Yeah.
We ain't necessarily worried about you. We're just worried about your grandbabies.
Yes.
Yeah,
There
absolutely.
you go.
The
There you
longevity.
go.
Is that
There
pretty
you go.
good? Is that pretty good, Luke?
I'm not going to argue with that.
I mean, come on.
That's-
I mean, it's what it's for, right? I work so hard, for my son and for my
It-
grandson. I mean, if
it
you guys
is-
are actually making steps towards the future of the forest, so it's legit.
I appreciate that, and that is our objective, which means you've all done this. I'm sure in your business, you've made decisions that are about out here that
That's right.
probably hurt today.
Absolutely.
And so that's
Absolutely.
I'm not trying to compare apples to apples. and
No,
all that,
I mean,
but it's,
you're 100% right.
it's,
I mean,
it's
there's
tough.
Some people don't understand why we do this, and you can't explain it because they don't know what it will feel like in the future.
And it's you can know the now,
Yeah.
but it's really hard to see the future.
Yeah.
Yep.
We are really good at building boats. We've learned a lot of problems and issues we've dealt with, and some people don't understand why we do what we do.
sure.
And,
Maybe we
and
should
o-
put Game and Fish in some of these boats.
and only well, we would if they'd pay us a little extra money.
I know.
I
Too
mean,
cheap
they-
on their
they,
bids.
They get plenty. They get plenty of tax money,
I can't.
but they want to offer like nothing for it.
They
But
don't want
anyways,
the best boat. They don't need the best.
Well, they gotta
It's
have
fine.
a fast
It's
boat.
fine.
You guys gotta get a fast boat. You know what I'm saying?
I'm not involved. in
But you know
those
what?
purchases.
I ain't gonna. I might not even sell them to them. I got. My customer might get mad at me.
Yeah, our customers have a thumb up.
I mean, they gotta go. They
That's
gotta
right.
go.
That's
I
right.
Good
mean,
luck
do.
catching our
They
guys.
see the green jeans, baby. We gonna go.
They see them in a havoc, they would probably
Yeah.
have an
Yeah.
issue.
Hey, those green jeans can't get no fast habits.
That's right.
Listen, I do have some friends that are possum cops. I do.
Hey,
I do have friends that are possum.
I got some
Oh,
nice. I got some nice friends.
I have a cousin that is.
Yeah,
I
they're
got.
good.
I got some.
Good.
I got some green jeans that are friends. So
Great fellas.
They're out
Yeah.
there doing good things too.
they are.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
they do good. What I don't like about the game wardens though is like I couldn't be one because I love to hunt and fish.
It'd be
Like,
like
they always
Yeah,
got.
it's the wrong
They
time of
always
year.
got to be working.
you'd have like a conflict of interest.
I just couldn't be a good game warden.
They think
I
it's a
like to-
glory job, and all they do is
Oh,
hunt
no.
and fish. No,
No.
they're working.
I know they're working.
No, it's not.
I mean, so hey, good job, guys. I'm glad you guys are out there doing it. And
Yeah, thank
everybody
y'all.
hates seeing you guys walk up. It's
Yeah.
not. Don't take it personal. It's
I'm
just.
confident they don't. They're well adjusted.
Oh,
they
they're-
are. They are.
They've heard it all.
Yeah. We definitely support our law enforcement.
Yeah,
And,
thank y'all.
What
Appreciate
you
it.
guys do out there in the game wardens and everything. So, anyways, let's wrap this thing up.
Absolutely. Everybody watching this, leave a like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. Check us out on YouTube, Rumble, Spotify. Look at our race series. We've got new race episodes coming out. It's going to be cool. So,
Yeah, don't forget to check out our store. We got a lot of new hoodies and jackets and all kinds of fun stuff. And we're also selling fishing poles now, right?
yep, we are.
That's for another podcast. But see you guys later.
Check us out later.
Yep.